Hi, I'm Corinne. I'm a naturalist out here at Bernheim Forest. I volunteer in the program primarily in the area of butterflies, but I have a fondness for gardening. So I think family gardening right now at this time is probably perfect. So I would like to give you some ideas on how to have a successful family garden where everybody can participate, no matter the age. All right, so let's start with two ingredients that are very important. One is your host plants, and two are your nectar plants. All butterflies have to lay eggs, and it turns into, a caterpillar, and they have to have something to eat. And a lot of times, because of that, those plants should be intermixed with your nectar plants. So here's how you do that. First of all, I think herbs are a good choice. So I'm going to use one example. This is the black swallowtail, or eastern black. It's very common in Kentucky. It loves anything in the parsley family when it comes to the caterpillar. So here's your choices. You could grow a pot of parsley and add a little whimsy with it by the container. I'm sure there's a lot of creative juice out there, especially in the family, and you'll get some really exciting look to your garden. So try a potted parsley. You can also plant some fennel and some dill. The fennel has a licorice odor when you break it, the leaf, and the caterpillars find that quite enticing. So anything that you can plant in a small pot, or you can do 3 or 4 different ones. Later on in your garden, you can take those out and transport them to a larger area if you choose. The space you choose, obviously you need a sunny place, you need to have some shade, and another thing for butterflies that I find important is a pebble or sand area that is kept moist. And I just dig a little hole, place a dish of some sort in there, fill it with sand, and keep it moist in the morning. And sometimes in the afternoon I'll wet it again so that butterflies can come in and get the minerals and the salts that they need while they're drinking the nectar in the flowers. Some of those will be basking on a source for part of their diet that's very important. So as far as the host plants, any herbs, even if you're cooking with thyme or basil, or you like spearmint to make tea, anything in the herb family is a great way to introduce a plant that produces a flower, and there are small butterflies that will come to this. There's a little butterfly called a skipper that I'm sure some of you are familiar with. It flies fast, and it likes to get on the ground, and it'll go into the herbs or into a flower garden and perch. The other thing we need is a variety of your nectar plants. And in my garden, I try to use natives to Kentucky, like coneflower, purple coneflower, also known as echinacea. And there are some other things you can choose depending on your own, interest. I like bee balm or monarda, and there's a variety of colors. Another thing to consider is to have a variety of color, because some butterflies prefer purple and some butterflies prefer white or yellow. So if you entice it with a variety, then you're going to get a variety also of butterflies. You're all familiar with the tiger swallowtail, this big yellow and black one. They like tubular flowers, and so do hummingbirds. So it's kind of a double treat, because I have found that on my salvia and on my bergamot or monarda, bee balm, that the tubes on these flowers are so deep that only swallowtails can put their tongue down there, their little proboscis. So hummingbirds do that too, and I'll see them both out there in the garden. So again, variety is the key. One thing I think is important about caterpillars I know people get concerned that they're going to eat too much, and they do eat a lot because they're growing and they have a lot to look forward to. So I think the key here is to plant enough. If you're doing parsley, I do a pot for me, and I do a pot and in the garden for the caterpillars, so that everybody gets a share. So they do eat a lot. You'll see plants disappear. They're very big eaters. So instead of pulling them off, let's let them eat, and we can eat too. And you can enjoy your garden much more if you know what is in there. I recommend a good book, and I found this is excellent because it talks about Kentucky butterflies and native flowers. So I'd like you to think about online. You can always go to butterfly gardening. A good website is monarchwatch.org if you like monarchs, and if you like a variety, they talk about 23 species of butterflies, their host plant and their nectar plant, and they will also tell you a little bit about how the cycle of this butterfly, the life cycle, is completed with those two host plants. So it's always good to have something to help you identify what's coming to your garden. Most people know about 5 butterflies, and just think, if you spend the whole summer in your garden, how close you can get to take pictures, identify those, and you'll get to be a real citizen scientist. I have a little saying, and I think it's really true. My favorite poet is Robert Frost, and he wrote about a little blue butterfly. And he said, "Little blue azure, flying flowers that all but sing." I think that is really true. If you incorporate both in your garden, you've got a lot to experience, and I think you'll really find a lot of enjoyment. Happy gardening!